Hello, welcome to OnQA. So in this presentation, we are going to talk about the WH forms of testing. The WH forms of testing is all about what is testing, why do we need testing, when do we start, when do we stop, who are required for testing, and how do we test and how can we test. So this is all together we are going to talk in this chapter step by step discussing complete the WH forms of testing. Let's get started. So already we have discussed the introduction to QA. We know the basic definition about the testing and what exactly it is, the different versions, the different definitions, all about the testing. But today in this session, we would concentrate learning about all the questions, all the fundamentals, all the WH forms of testing. We will deal from what is testing, why do we need, when do we start, when do we stop, how do we test, how can we test, and what are the things that required for testing. So we are going to deal and learn each and everything step by step. Let's get started. And then we would talk about the complete QA career path, and then we move and discuss the software testing lifecycle. Okay, so when we say the WH forms of testing, there are so many things that we should know. The first thing, what is the QA? What is testing? And what are required for testing? In the previous chapter, we already discussed the fundamental and the core definition of the testing. So I'm not going to touch base, but I just give you at a glance. So testing is the process of executing a program to check the issues in it, or testing is the process of verifying an application with the intention of finding defects. So either way you could have, or testing is the process of verifying an application to check if the application is behaving as per the requirements. So there are so many definitions, already we discussed about it. Now we are going to talk about the other things. So why do we need testing? And who are required for testing? When do we start? When do we stop? And where do we get this done? And how do we do that? How do we test that? How can we test that? So there are so many questions which are really fundamental and important. Let's talk about that. The first thing, so why testing should be done or why testing is required. The first and for the most reason is quality. Without a quality, nobody would be compromised. Every customer needs his project quality driven, and we need to provide a quality application to the customer. When we say quality, it is the combination of three things: defect free, which is delivered within the budget, which is delivered within the time, with a process followed. So we should be, as a tester, certify, verify, validate, and provide the quality project to the customer with a bug free, within the budget, within the time frames. And then what happens if the developers would take care of everything? There is no guarantee that the developer would make sure the functionality is perfect, because dev always thinks in the point of structure, program, code, conditions, loops, statements, parameters. He would never be bothering about the actual functionality. But as a tester, I am worried because I represent the customer. I am the mediator between the dev and the customer. So tester is the person who is the mediator, who takes care of the complete verification and validation part, who would certify the build, who would verify and provide the quality of the application. And thus we are there. So testing is essential because we do a quality driven check, a quality driven testing. And then, so while we are there, we think, or testers think, in the point of customer. Customer wanted to have an application which is bug free, which runs effectively with a transaction of 5 seconds, or with the speed of so and so RAM, or with a graphical user interface enrichment, with the functionality login, log out, verification, successful, invalid data, error throwing. So many things that you would expect. And we would think the same way. And we would certify or we would validate the application to match that criteria. So testers think in the point of customer. And always remember, developers would think in the point of code, but testers would think in the point of functionality. We follow the functional approach. I don't care about the code. I just care about how it is functioning. And then quality. At the end, it's all we should make the customer happy and satisfied. So we need to deliver a quality application. So these are the reasons we would say testing is required and essential in the software. Let's go and talk about when do we start testing and when do we stop. So we start testing right from the requirement analysis. Most of the people think that we start testing only in the testing phase when the build is given to us. That's not the case. We start testing in the process of verification right from the beginning of the requirements. We do review the documents. We do review the business requirement specifications, system requirement specifications, use cases, all the documents. We do understand. And we see whether these can be testable in the application at later stages. And based on these documents, we would define, design the test plan, the test cases. And then when the application is ready, then we would start validating, executing these test cases on this application. So we begin the testing right from the requirement analysis. But when do we stop? People think we can stop while the build is deployed, tested, and delivered. No. Testing, in fact, can never be stopped. Testing is always to happen. But however, there are certain parameters, certain reasons where we would say we would stop the testing. Those parameters, while we test and certify that all the requirements are working properly, functioning properly, and are good. An application says to be super, no defects, and everything is in control. And while we report the QA reports, metrics, indicators, they represent the quality of the application and 100% quality of the metrics. When these all the things happen, when all the testings are done, we deliver the project with the quality and then we keep on supporting, maintaining. So that's what the stage where we say we are done with the testing. However, testing could be never be stopped. Good. So why or who does testing? Is that you? Is that me? Is that PM? Is that developer? Is that customer? Who does testing? There are so many people. Out of all, the core person who is required, who is essential by all the means is the QA or tester. Tester thinks in the point of functionality. Tester thinks in the point of customer. Tester does the black box testing. Black box testing is a huge separate thing that we will talk about at this point of time. Black box testing is the process of consideration of the functionality. We would try to validate the functionality of the application, whereas the developer would consider the code. We are not considering the code, we would worry about the functionality. So that methodology is known to be black box testing. And then in the black box, there are so many things: smoke, functional, integration, system, regression, automation, cross-browser, compatibility, security, sanity, performance testing. There are so many things. So we would talk about each and everything in a while, but out of all, the tester, the QA plays an important role to validate the application. And then developer also consider, he could also test from his side, but that is called white box testing. That white box testing is purely dealing the code, the structure, the loops, the parameters, the functions, and that can be done in two ways: unit testing and integration testing. And not only that, project managers, leaders could also do They do verify the project reviews. They do verify the process. They do verify certain level of process oriented things across the teams, and they would make sure that everything is good. And even the customer would be interested to test the application in the point of functionality. He knows the business. He would cross check whether that business is seen or verified or working good in the application. So there is separate testing call known to be user acceptance testing. So that is being done by the customer. In the UAT there are two things, alpha testing and beta testing. So we'll talk about that little while, but customer would be also interested in talking about that. And then end user, the actual real end user who would use the application, would also test sometimes to help the real customer, would also give feedback, would also give the defects, and that is so-called beta or user acceptance testing in a over end. We'll talk about that little while. And then everybody who is part of the software or application is considered to test at certain times to verify everything is proper, everything is working good. So this is what all the people required. However, tester plays an important, crucial role, and 90% of the quality is dependent upon the tester's execution model. So tester plays an important role. And then what are required? There are so many things. We require requirements, we require business use cases, we require test plans, we require test cases, we require environment, we require the application build to be validated, we require the integrations, we require the databases, we require the operating systems, we require the test machines, lab, virtual machines, setups, tools, browsers, plugins, and out of all, we require everything what is essential to certify the project or to certify the application. There are so many things that you might not know. What is environment, what is virtual machine, what is Selenium, RPM, QTP. So we would talk about them in detail. Don't worry at this point of time, because we're trying to learn the simplest fundamentals of the QA. And in that, we're trying to know the double response of testing. Okay, so thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. There are so many videos are uploaded. You could just go and enjoy watching them. We have so many things: automation, test management, performance testing, functional testing, lot of books, PDFs, videos. So please visit EarnQA and enjoy the learning. Thank you so much.